It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball. Oh, Holliman looks the clock. Half court for the win. Oh! The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it. The pass is a touchdown to give.
I have a great relationship with the Blacks. I've always had a great relationship with the Blacks.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. How about them Tigers? Am I right? We'll get into it. Obviously, it's the headliner of the show. I fully expected this show to be the Doomer show, where the Tigers find a way to lose a game with a Scooble start, as they have managed to do for much of this month of baseball, but they ended up winning. So we're going to talk about that, as well as, I guess, the end of the season and sort of it all transpiring, because the win today, I think, has really re-energized a lot of Tiger fans, because now you're a win away from being right back where you were last year in the divisional round. And that means there's going to be playoff baseball in the city of Detroit. But we got a great show. We got a lot to talk about. We got the Lions victory on Sunday. We got a lot of interesting things happening in the NFL this past weekend. Shout out Dallas and Green Bay for some of the worst football I've ever had the displeasure of watching. And I barely even watched. But I guess I just want to jump right into this Tiger game. So this is about as raw a reaction to a game, short of me like literally live reacting like those shows. This is about as raw a reaction as you're going to get from me. So I want to start by painting this picture of how we've gotten here. Okay? So short of you calling this a miracle in the opposite direction, the Tigers managed to do something that I literally did not think they were going to do. Like, I did not think that the math was going to work out for them to fail this bad, but they did. The month of September was a complete and utter disaster for this team. You want to know how many times the Tigers won a series in the month of September? Not, sweeps, not anything crazy. Just winning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 1 out of 2. They didn't play any 2-game sets, but or 2 out of 2, I should say. You want to know how many times they did that? 1. They got 1 series win. The entire month of September. They lost 2 out of 3 against the Mets. Then they lost 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. They managed to win on the road against the Yankees somehow. I don't know how they managed to do that. That was like the only, all their offense was put into that Yankee series. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. They get swept by the Guardians. They get swept by the Braves. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Guardians on the road. Then they lose 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox on the road. And the thing that gets me, okay, so they stumble in, they clinch the playoffs this past Saturday with a 2-1 victory over the Red Sox. So their last 2 wins have both been 2-1, weirdly enough. And they're out there just dancing along, doing the champagne party and, acting like, they did something that everybody thought they were going to do. Like, when they were celebrating, and then on Sunday, I'm like, guys, you can still win the division. If you win and Cleveland loses, you still win the division. But then AJ Hinch said, you know what? F the division. And put out the worst lineup I've ever seen of such all-stars as Justin Henry Malloy, Jake Rogers, and Trey Sweeney. And they go out there, and they manage to actually play a pretty compelling game on Sunday, but they lose the game. And a lot of the talk and media, and like all of what was coming out from the team was, well, losing sucks. We'll figure it out. And it was just like, it just came off as incredibly tone deaf. Like, you had Riley Green saying, it is what it is after his 100th strikeout of the season. Well, certainly of the season, but of the month, it felt like it was his 100th strikeout of the month. And I just, by the end of that game on Sunday, I was like, all right, I'm just in off-season mode. I'm just thinking about what are they going to do to build this lineup better? What kind of trades are we going to do? Are we going to sign Scooble? If we're not, what can we get for him in a trade? What's going to happen, basically. And then they won today. And I'm not going to say I've completely flipped out of off-season mode. But they have got my attention. All right. And maybe that's where I'm most deadly, is when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. And they played a game that it wasn't beautiful. It certainly wasn't. The offense was terrible, largely. They had so many opportunities to blow that game open, and the bats went cold. But the pitching was excellent. Scooble was incredible. 14 strikeouts in almost 8 innings pitched in a playoff game on the road against a division rival, a team that just beat you 2 out of 3 less than a week ago. You can't make that up. And then Will Vest closing it out. And probably the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop. 9th inning, you're up 2-1. Jose Ramirez hits a grounder to short. Javi Baez makes an incredible diving play. Throws, bad throw, gets past Torkelson at first. Ramirez goes all the way to third. I'm like, all right, well, maybe we'll have to try to win this in extras. Then Vest gets a strikeout. I'm like, okay, that eliminates at least 1 out, right? They still got it. They could still tie this game up with a good hit. But then a ground ball to short. Ground ball up to the mound to Will Vest. And at first I'm like, oh, he's going to go throw him out at first, right? Because there's no way that Jose Ramirez, one of the best third basemen, one of the best baseball players in the league, there's no way he's going to be running on contact.
Is the man retarded?
And there he was, in the middle of third and home, like a scared little boy in a mire after his mommy didn't realize that he was left in the cereal aisle. And Will Vest just like, oh, all right, well, let's just tag you. I've never seen that. When I saw that happen, I was like, so I was working, by the way. So shout out to my employer. I was working from home, and I'm watching the game on my television. And I see the ground ball, and I'm like, okay, great. That's going to be a ground out. And then I see, oh, my gosh, they're going to try to throw him out of home. And then, oh, my gosh, he's not even close to home. And then they just tag him. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, literally,
Is the man retarded?
That was my thought. Like, is the man retarded? Like, what are you doing? Why are you are one of the top. I love Jose Ramirez as a baseball player. He hurts me as a Tiger fan, but as a baseball player, he is one of my favorite players to watch. And he went out and made one of the most boneheaded decisions. He made the kind of decision that the Tigers have been making this whole month. And that's not on top of the fact that you had, the ground ball to first base that bounces off the first baseman. And then you also had the splits where he's not tagging the bag and Wenzel Perez reaches. You have, I'm trying to think of some of the other, you have just bad game management. You're putting in guys with 160 averages to be your pinch hitter because you like the matchup. And like Cleveland does not have the hitting, seemingly. They got Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan, and pretty much outside of the one hit at the end of the game, both of those guys were completely shut down. And if they're not on, well, you're relying on Josh Naylor and Rodriguez and things. You're relying on those guys, Austin Hedges, to do something for you. And that's not a winning strategy for Cleveland. Now, I'm sure, they still got 2 games to work themselves back into this. It's certainly not over yet. But you can't help but feel that basically the Space Jam aliens came in and flipped the talent level for both of these teams. The Tigers played a clean game outside of the Javi Baez error, which, frankly, it wasn't that bad of a throw. If Torkelson, is able to just reach out a little bit more, he probably could make the play. But it is what it is. Even also, Javi Baez had 2 hits that game. So, he kind of, whatever. I can live with 1 error and 2 hits. That's fine with me. All I would say is this. given all of the losing, all right, and given what just transpired earlier today, what do the Tigers need to do to make up for it, in my mind? And in my mind, it's the same goal that we really had, I say, going into the season. Last year, they won in the wild card, lost in the ALDS. You got to get better. So, win the ALDS, and I'll consider the season a success. And that's because if they would have won the Central and lost the ALDS, okay, at least you have a title, at least you have a banner, you have something that you can stake in this season. They don't have that. And frankly, when you look back at some of the moves that have been made, the electric trade deadline that was Kyle Finnegan and friends, literally, because Charlie Morton's off the team, and Kyle Finnegan, Chris Paddock is no longer a starting pitcher for you. If you can get to the ALCS, then you're on a free ride. Then anything beyond that. And I will say this. As good as the Mariners are, and I probably I could look stupid with this saying this, but there's one team in the MLB that has never, ever, 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 ever made the World Series. And that's the Seattle Mariners. And that's not to say that they can't get to the ALCS. That's not to say they can't beat you in 3. All right? They certainly could. But you got to feel like if things start going poorly for those Seattle Mariners players and for those fans, you got to think that the creeping thought in the back of your mind that, oh my gosh, we're going to do it again. I mean, they were one of the best. They had what was the best regular season record in all of baseball was Seattle Mariners, and they didn't even make the World Series. I don't even know if they made the ALCS. I think they got eliminated in the first round. Or a division round, whatever it was. I don't know. For what it's worth, here's what I'll say. Tigers, okay? You really got me angry with you. You really hurt me in that last month of September. Make the ALCS and all is forgiven. All is forgiven. I will know. It won't matter to me that you didn't win the division. Truly. But I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So I'm happy that they won today. I'm hoping they can win this 3-game set against Cleveland because it would just be so delicious to let them have their stupid little division title while we can have a deeper run in the playoffs. That would just be funny. But I have my doubts. So, prove me wrong. Let's see. Take a look at some of these chat messages. Tigers saw what they did last year to win the season and said, let's do that again. I'm in reverse. Yeah, basically. Win in advance to Seattle and not forgive the most of this losing. I'll say most, but not all of it. All is not forgiven unless you make the ALCS. Tigers had so many opportunities to add more runs and we fell flat. Tomorrow, I think it's Mize that's starting. But we definitely need to, the point is correct. We need to hit with runners in scoring position. Series in Houston last year. Don't go to game 3 after how you won game 1. Very true. I said about July, if the Tigers can at least make the ALCS, the season was a success. That still holds true, even after blowing the division. True. Creeping thought in the back of my mind is Michigan State potentially losing to UCLA. All right, you don't need to put that out in my mind. You can keep that into your mind. How about that? Don't do that to me. All right. They're not losing to UCLA. They're probably they could lose to Nebraska. They're not losing to UCLA. You stop it right now. They could lose to Nebraska. I don't know if I'm really going to talk about that on today's show, mostly because I don't know how much time I'll have. But no, if they lose to UCLA, then Jonathan Smith needs to be fired. You cannot lose to that team at home. At home, they don't have a coach. Their quarterback is a head case. Can't do it. But all right. So I guess with that being said, we can move along into the rest of the MLB postseason because we also have a few other things to talk about. So I want to just immediately talk about some of the results of today. Chicago beats the Padres. They take a 1-0 series lead after a 3-1 win. Another low-scoring affair. I messaged Seth earlier today because he's a Padres fan, naturally, being a San Diego resident, and he told me that he feels like they're just going to lose in the first round. So apparently, both of us have very pessimistic views of our baseball teams. And unfortunately for him, it seems that at least in that case, his is more accurate given the Cubbies got that 3-1 win today. So we'll see if they end up bouncing back, but it's unfortunate. I will say this. The Cubs do kind of feel like the NL equivalent of the Tigers in so much as the Cubs had a really strong start to the season, felt like they were going to win that division, and then Milwaukee just came in and just murdered everybody and started like throwing guts and bones and brains all over the wall because they were just killing every single being in front of them. It was like the Doom guy basically signed with the Milwaukee Brewers and started destroying things. But needless, they definitely played better down the stretch. And I think they probably have an overall more, I don't know, talented team, maybe. I mean, they do have Matthew Boyd pitching, and he's pitching well, which is crazy. It's crazy to think that Matthew Boyd is number 1 still in the league and number 2 actually pitching well. So anyways, moving along to the other teams I want to briefly discuss. So the Mariners and the Blue Jays occupy the top 2 seeds in the American League. I feel like of the two, the Mariners are the far more frightening team. They went out and they did great stuff at the trade deadline, I thought. They got Suarez, they got Naylor. I thought they had a really good deadline and boosted that already good baseball team to be even better. And obviously the surge they had at the very end to end up winning the American League West. Very big for them. They vanquished the Houston Astros. This is the first time in a long time that the Houston Astros are not in the playoffs. It does kind of feel like their run is at this point over. I think it was probably over after last year when the Tigers beat them in 2. So, it's officially over at this point. You're now out of the playoffs, and we'll see how Houston manages to try to rebuild what they've got. They've still got Jose Altuve, and he's still playing at a pretty high level, but, you're probably not going to be building around a guy like that anymore. Anyway, enough about the Houston Astros. Goodness gracious. The Toronto Blue Jays, on the other hand, they're an interesting team because I don't know if I really trust them. And it's not because they're not good. It's more that I just, let me actually take a look. I'm pretty sure as far as run differential, which I know is not the only thing to consider, but let me just... They have a plus 77 run differential, which is obviously good. But compared to even teams within their division, i.e. the Red Sox and the Yankees, it's not even close. Heck, compared to the Tigers, it's not even that much better. Plus 67 were what the Tigers were at, whereas the Red Sox and the Yankees, plus 110 and plus 164 respectively. And again, I know that these are not complete stats, but other things to consider. The Blue Jays are 40 and 41 on the road. They're very good at home. So, they have that going for them. That's why being the number 1 seed is very valuable. But they struggled a little bit going on the road. So, I don't know. I guess it's just Toronto, and they got a good team. Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette, the whole 9 yards. They got a good team. It's just, I don't know. Who do you trust more in the postseason? The Yankees, who granted don't have any pitching, or the Blue Jays? The Blue Jays might end up in the ALCS just based on the fact that the Red Sox and the Yankees are, neither of them are particularly elite, at least on either the pitching or the hitting side, respectively. The Yankees very good hitters, and I'd say the Red Sox probably have the better pitching compared to the two. Mostly because the Yankees pitchers are basically all dead. Not literally, but you get what I mean. Moving along, though, to the National League. I put this out here, but it's put up or shut up time for the Phillies. this is the year of the Dave Dombrowski. This is like the 2013 Tigers, right? They're not the number 1 seed, but they're the number 2 seed. You know, they're loaded. Kyle Schwarber's having an MVP season. You know, it's just like Miguel Cabrera, 2013 MVP season, destroying baseballs. The Tigers are world beaters. All they've got to do is beat the winner of the Dodgers-Reds series. And to me, it's put up or shut up. If you don't at least go back to the World Series this year, Philadelphia, then I'm done with you. I'm done with this, with all the superstars. I'm done with all the, Schwarber Bomb and Bryce Harper and all that. They got great players. They do. So go out there and win. Go out there and perform. But it's a Dave Dombrowski team. And I've seen this happen before. Tigers had a lot of superstar players in 2010s. And then the playoffs will come. And then, Justin Verlander's giving up grand slams in the first inning. I don't know if he gave up a grand slam in the first inning against the Giants, but it wasn't great. All right. I know that. So on the other end of it, I mentioned it earlier, but the Reds have the chance to do the funniest thing in the world right now. All right. They play tonight, and we'll see what ends up happening. But they got a chance, all right, to eliminate not just the Dodgers, but to potentially eliminate the Phillies. Could you imagine Great American Ballpark, ALDS, like Ellie De La Cruz hits a bomb? Come on. That would be elite. And it would be so hysterically funny if two of the, big, high spenders, pay to win teams, if they just lose to a team that has never, it's so weird to me that the Cincinnati Reds are in the playoffs. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But they're in. And so you might as well have a little fun. Have some chaos. I like chaos. Toronto basically looks to have an ALCS apprentice appearance. I assume you mean locked up due to how banged up both the Yankees. Yep, true. And I mean, if you're watching this, I'm watching this Yankees Red Sox game. It's 1-0 Yankees. The only run coming on a solo home run from Anthony Volpe. But neither of these teams are showing any signs of offense. Which is unusual, at least for the Yankees, and I guess for the Red Sox as well. Imagine Toronto, Seattle, ALCS. Hope the Dodgers don't BS their way to a World Series again. I mean, at least last year they were just murdering teams, so you can't say it was BS what they were doing last year. But yeah, so look, playoff baseball is back. I don't know how to speak. Playoff baseball is back. It's exciting. It's fun, and I'm hoping that we get, at the very least, some memorable moments, okay? Because last year, actually, frankly, the last couple of years, at least when you got to the World Series, everything just kind of fell flat. Like, I had really high hopes for that Texas Rangers, Arizona Diamondbacks World Series because I thought, okay, two smaller teams, two teams that are not, big powerhouse, but that are fun. And then the Rangers just murdered them, the Diamondbacks, that is. And then last year, despite it being Yankees and Dodgers, and everybody, oh no, it's the nightmare New York, LA big market matchup. I was like, okay, well, like these teams are both really good, so we're gonna get a classic World Series. And no, it was just Dodgers just murdering everyone involved. It's quite sad, really. I'm not even a Yankee fan, but it was sad. But yeah, so good to see playoff baseball is back, and I'm hyped for it, and hopefully the Tigers can make it a memorable one. Hopefully not in a bad way. That was a nice play by the ball boy. I think that was a ball boy. It might have been a ball girl. Let's see. I just say BS because of all the talk about how the World Series is losing views, and then suddenly you get a World Series of the two biggest names of baseball, and you start wondering if they are making money. Series. I don't know what you mean by the end, but okay. Yeah, I mean, like, baseball is not as popular as it once was, but I think a lot of that is due to just there's a lot you can say about why it's not popular. One thing that I would say is that I think people just don't have the attention spans as much as they used to. Baseball teams are not as well marketed as they used to be. The star players are increasingly, and this is not, it's not anybody's fault, but they are increasingly becoming less knowable in a way. Like I love Shohei Ohtani. I think he's got a, good personality. I think he's a fun player, but like he's not like Derek Jeter, where it was like he just seems like a regular guy who plays baseball. Shohei Ohtani is like an alien in a way, and that's good for my purposes as a fan. But it's like there's no, I don't know. It's unfortunate, and one of the things that people say was they need to market them better. They need to market them better. I do wonder what that means specifically. Like, do you mean you just put like Freddie Freeman in every commercial? Like, I don't know. It's just like the commercials. Like baseball players are already not usually high personality individuals, right? Like it's just, and a lot of it, like I think a lot of the fandom that people have for baseball teams is those guys that really only local people know about. You made the point here. Who is Kerry Carpenter to a non-AL Central fan? Exactly. Like Kerry Carpenter is, if you're a Tiger baseball fan, in Michigan or wherever, you know Kerry Carpenter. But if you're a guy in New York or LA, you probably don't know who Kerry Carpenter is. Or, if you're just walking around the streets, you might get some baseball fans who have some knowledge of him, but not really. And he's one of the better known, right? Like, what about a guy like Wenzel Perez or a guy like Dylan Dingler? Yeah, I can't imagine anybody from some of the other markets even knowing these guys by name. And that's part of the reason that, it's like baseball is unique, like you're not going to be able to market the local hero, like the local try-hard guy. Like, let me put it this way. Look at a guy like Willie Horton. Willie Horton was not some amazing, incredible player. He's not a Hall of Famer. He was a good player, but let me just pull up his numbers and you can, hold on. Willie Horton, baseball. Let's see. It gave me another Willie Horton. But Willie Horton was not a Hall of Famer. He was a 4-time All-Star and a World Series champ. But like outside of Detroit, and maybe he kind of bounced around the league in the 70s and 80s. But outside of Detroit, people don't really know about him. Like he's a legend here, and that's a part of baseball, is having those heroes playing for your local team, and it just isn't as much of a thing anymore. Like everything has become so nationalized, because now you can watch every team in the league. You can watch National League play American League every single night. It used to be far more localized, and as it has expanded, kind of like college football, interest drops. Because why would I watch my team who doesn't have Aaron Judge when, I can watch Aaron Judge every night? I can just tune into the Yankees, or I can tune into the Dodgers, or I can tune into the Padres or whoever. So, meanwhile, speaking of Aaron Judge, the Red Sox took a 2-1 lead, a 2 RBI single, and the Yankees bullpen is starting to give this one up as Aaron Boone is about to make a pitching change. Is that Max Fried? That might actually be Max Fried. I don't know if they actually have gone to the bullpen yet. Yeah, I think that's Max Fried. I know the NBA recently had OKC versus Indy, but they lost most of their star players in the playoffs. And what's funny though is like that series, Thunder Pacers, that was a great series. Went to 7 games, and we lost a potential classic game 7 due to an injury to Tyrese Halliburton. But that was a great series. And it was 2 teams that are not big market. It was just 2 high quality, well-made teams. Like it was just, it's good stuff. But that's coming from me. Okay, that's coming from the sports fan. think about it from the average perspective of just a viewer who's like, I want to watch something tonight. I don't know. I'm not a big sports fan, but what can I watch? And you want to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Indiana Pacers, or alternatively, do you want to watch the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks? Everybody, I can talk to my non-sports fans. They'll know who the basketball team is in LA. They won't know who the basketball team is in Indiana. Nobody will. They might not even know there is a basketball team in Indiana. Ask a Tiger to a guy in Indiana. Oh, ask name of a Tiger to a guy in Indiana. How much you bet they say Miguel Cabrera? Right. They're going to say Miguel Cabrera or maybe Justin Verlander or I don't know. Like, it's funny. The 84 team was obviously the last team to win the World Series. I don't know that many people even can name a lot of players on that team. Like I can. Jack Morris, Alan Trammell. Or wait, hold on. Wait, not Alan Trammell. Wait, no. Yeah, Alan Trammell. I get Al Kaline and Alan Trammell mixed up. And it's Alan Trammell, right? So, maybe this is proving my point. Like Lou Whitaker, Kirk Gibson. This is proving my point. Dan Petrie. Things. Anyway. So, all right. We can move along to some football here. And as we witness the Yankees going full Yankees. So, all right. Talk some NFL. Lions taking care of business. T-Cab. They go out there and they just body bag the Browns. And it's funny. You can go back and watch my live reaction to this. There was really never a point in this game where I was genuinely nervous. Like, I was just kind of joking around the whole time. I was feeling pretty good. Like, there was no world in which the Lions were going to lose this game. Now, let's talk about some of the specifics. All right. In-game performance, it wasn't perfect. No doubt about it. I mean, just looking from a box score perspective, Goff went 16 for 27. Not amazing. 168 yards, couple of touchdowns, and a pick. So that's not good. But you did rush for 91 yards with Jahmyr Gibbs on 15 carries. That's pretty good. Jahmyr Gibbs had probably, to this point, one of the better games he's had all year. You ran for 109 yards against a very, very, very good defensive line. So that's a win. Amon-Ra had a great game. Couple of touchdowns and 70 yards for him. Jameson Williams did not have a great game. 2 catches out of 8 targets. He had a couple of bad drops in there, but he still had 40 yards. So, he managed to at least have something of an impact on his minimal catches. And then obviously on special teams, you had the Khalif Raymond return punt. And as far as, you also had a amazing kick from Jake Bates. Let me see if I can see does it give me the distance? Yeah, it was the 58-yarder he just manages to get. That was incredible. It was an all-around great win. And the defense, oh my goodness, the defense. Can I just say, and I'll get to Aiden Hutchinson later, Jack Campbell, if this guy's not a Pro Bowler by the end of this year, I don't know who is. All this guy does is go out there and tackle people. 11 total tackles led the team. 7 of them for solos. 1 of them was for a loss. All this guy does is tackle people. He is so much better than I think people give him credit for. All he does is grind. All he does is stuff the run. All he does is make plays. He is so good. And I love Jack Campbell. And I will not let people forget about him when we talk about how good this defense has been. Derek Barnes has also been very good. It's funny because, Jack Campbell right now is kind of playing the role that Alex Anzalone had played the last couple of years, which obviously makes sense. I think they drafted him in part to kind of take over for Anzalone as he was in the twilight of his career. And he has taken over and run with it, basically. The other guy, obviously, you got to talk about, as I mentioned earlier, Aiden Hutchinson had, to this point, his best game of the year. And you knew that he was going to feast on Joe Flacco and that offensive line. 4 total tackles, 3 of them solo, 2 sacks, and a strip sack included in that. 4 QB hits. He was amazing. He was electric. He was great. He is one of the elite edge rushers in the league. So he's playing like one. And that is just so good to see. I will say this. When he went down, there was a part of me that had all of the post-traumatic stress just all going into my mind. The chemicals were firing off. I was thinking, oh my gosh, is it happening again? Am I really going to have to go through this whole ordeal all over again? And then he gets up and he walks off and they show the injury. I was like, oh, he got his bell rung. like this is the thing, all right? Like, I played football when I was in elementary school, so I never got to like high level high school or certainly not college football. But one of the things my dad told me, who did play high school football, was sometimes you just get your bell rung, and that was basically the nicer way of saying concussion. And obviously, Aiden Hutchinson is not concussed, but he took a shoulder pad to like this kind of area, like kind of near the face mask. I think he also said he kind of got hit maybe near the windpipe or in the chest area. And he got the wind knocked out of him. And he said it, and it's like, all right, yeah, he's fine. Like literally, like again, I didn't play at the high level. I don't make this out as though, oh my gosh, Mike is so experienced to play. No, but you take those kinds of hits and they suck and they don't feel great, but then you're up in like, 10 minutes most. Like maybe probably even less than that. You're up in like 5 minutes. Like you're ready to go. So yeah, that was great. However, to switch gears a little bit away from some of the positive and maybe into some of the negative. The secondary for this team is starting to get a little beat up. Kirby Joseph took an injury this game. He appeared to be okay. I think he came back in, but he's probably playing with something. Despite playing really well, he's had a couple of interceptions already on the year. But the big names, Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed, both of those guys probably won't be playing this upcoming Sunday against Cincinnati. That is a little bit of a concern. And the reason I say that is because Cincinnati, despite having terrible quarterback play, has very good wide receiver play. And I don't care how bad of a quarterback you are, if you're able to scheme guys that are open, short of you being blind, or in the words of a great sports analyst,
is the man retarded?
Retarded. You should be able to hit them. Now, granted, Jake Browning, I ask myself,
is the man retarded?
Especially after that last showing on Sunday. That was not good. That was very not good. Or Monday, I should say. Now, the DJ Reed thing, that's a big concern. He was probably to this point our best corner, and to lose him potentially for up to 4 weeks due to a hamstring injury, that's obviously not good. Terrion Arnold, on the other hand, look, you have to call it straight. He has not been great. In fact, he has not even been good for the most part. I hate seeing every time I'm calling a game and there's a big play given up or a defensive penalty, it's always in Terrion Arnold's direction. I mean, not always, literally always, but look, he had to deal with a baptism by fire last year. I'm not going to hold last year against him. And he's playing a really hard role. Playing man-to-man coverage in the NFL is not easy. But that's what the money's for, right? That's why we pay you the big bucks. That's why we drafted you in the first round. And it's unfortunate that he's dealing with injury right now, because I think from all intents and purposes, it seemed like he had a great camp. I had higher expectations for him coming into this year. Unfortunately, so far, not great, not good. Maybe this can kind of wake him up. At the very least, if there is any solace, you're going to see more play from Amik Robertson, who I absolutely love. I think he's a complete dog, and I really want him to be more involved in our defense. And if it means that Terrion Arnold has to play less, and obviously already he's going to be playing less because of this injury, I don't really care. And I think I trust Calvin Shepard, and more importantly, I trust Dan Campbell to be able to put the best players in and put them in the best spot to be able to win games. So I'm not in hyper paranoid level, because obviously 2 injuries to your secondary, that neither of which are season ending, are totally fine. right? That's it. You're not going to completely lose out on the season that way. Believe me, I've dealt with a lot more defensive injuries than 2 in the secondary. You're probably going to be fine. But let's keep it at that. And let's get healthy. And then when you're back healthy, Terrion, and when you're back healthy, DJ, let's get back to work. And I can finally say this and actually mean it. We're on to Cincinnati. I'm so happy I got to say that. I never get to say that because we don't ever play Cincinnati. I did see that. I did see that he got baptized. So, congratulations for him. That's very good. Big fan. I'm Catholic, so I'm happy when people get baptized. Although I'm Catholic, so we get baptized in the church, like in a church building, not out in a pond somewhere, or in a river. I don't. Is that water? That water's got to be a little gross. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be mean to him, but that water is. If I were to choose to be baptized, which I don't have that choice, I was already baptized. I don't know if I would go with the Detroit River off Belle Isle. I don't know if I would do that. Don't know that I would do that. I probably would not do that. I'd probably just say get the hose or give me a font. Give me a pool. That's fine. Yeah, very questionable. Like, do people swim in it? It kind of reminds me of that scene in Seinfeld where Kramer swims in the Hudson River, and he gets all these people who all want to go swimming with him, and they're all swimming in the Hudson River. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Actually, just based on what happened last year and how in the end that's what ended up being yeah, basically. And it's like let's keep the injuries where they're at. All right, I just want. Health is as much of a factor for being able to win a championship, especially in the NFL, but really every league. It's something you can't really control to some extent. You gotta have good conditioning. You gotta have good luck. It is what it is. You can't. There's nothing you can do if a guy, tears his ACL or takes a bad hit or whatever. You can't control it. So. That's why every team, and I say this because people will say, "Oh, I hate when people will give asterisks to championships." And sometimes, maybe they do deserve. But every team has a little bit of luck. All right, every team. There's no such thing as a team that won a championship and there was no luck involved. And even if you want to say, "Well, they had to play this team fully out there. They got to play that team." Okay, you're not considering that it's not just you versus the opponents you have to play. It's you versus all 31 teams in which every other team had something potentially go wrong for them. Anyway, I'm going to get off my high horse. Yeah, sometimes they definitely, like Michigan definitely deserves an asterisk. Don't tell them that. No, they won fair and square, guys. Is in fact the fairest and least advantageous championship ever. In fact, they had a disadvantage. Because they had to deal with, the NCAA being angry with them. That's somehow a disadvantage. Anyway, moving along to the rest of the NFL schedule for the week and a bit of a recap. My first bullet point I have is just Chargers, no! If Seth were here, he'd be able to more authentically articulate that. But what in the world? How do you lose this game? Jackson Dart did not look exceptional. 13 for 20 with a touchdown, 111 yards is not blowing you away. Herbert had a terrible game, 2 picks, 203 yards, very bad game. And it felt like they were playing from behind the whole game. But they got a great game out of Omari and Hampton, 128 yards. I would know. I had him in fantasy. It was great. So glad that I drafted him. Because he might even be better than Derrick Henry this year for me. But how do you lose this game? Now, look, I'll say this. The Giants are a very similar team, I think, to the Browns. Allow me to explain. Giants, defense good, offense not good. And maybe it's just one of those situations. Maybe the Chargers, while they are a good team, I think a potentially very good team, they're down Joe Alt, not for the rest of the year, but for a significant amount of time. They already lost Slater. They're dealing with the injuries early on. So they might kind of stumble here a little bit. But they can afford to stumble a little bit. They're 3-1. All right? They can afford to stumble a little bit and still get in. As long as they can get healthy at the right time, I think the Chargers are going to be okay. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, I think it is their division to lose. Just because I don't believe in the Chiefs. I definitely don't believe in the Raiders. And the Broncos, I think they beat up on bad teams, but they lose to teams that are even remotely good. Heck, they lost to the Colts in a game they should have won, but of course they find ways to lose games because it's a Sean Payton coach team. And as I mentioned before, Sean Payton is basically Mike Ditka on the Saints. This is the modern Sean Payton for the Broncos is Mike Ditka for the Saints. And if you want to know how that went, go ahead and look up the Ricky Williams trade. So, yeah. And I guess, as far as the Giants go, I'm rooting for them to lose in as much as they got a lot of interesting players on their defensive line that I would not mind our Detroit Lions potentially going after. Maybe a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, who is a guy that I actually really liked coming out of the draft. In fact, I was on the Thibodeau over Hutchinson train. No, I am willing to say that I have reconciled for that bad opinion, but hey, we might end up with both, depending on what ends up happening over in New York there. But we'll see. Anyway, moving along though, Pittsburgh manages to hold off Minnesota in Ireland, first NFL game in Ireland. But this was truly the mid-off of the century. I watched the tail end of this game because I had just gotten back from church that morning. And this was like the mid-off of the century. Aaron Rodgers is so remarkably not great. He is so remarkably average. It was 18 for 22. So highly accurate. 200 yards, just one touchdown. Blah. I'm sorry. Blah. And he took 2 sacks for a loss of 18 yards. Blah. Okay. Yeah, DK Metcalf finally decided to show up for work. Anybody else wanted to show up that game? Anybody? No? Darnell Washington? Jonnu Smith? One of the guys they traded for in the offseason for who knows what reason? No. The Steeler team is not good. I know they're 3-1, but ironically enough, they might end up winning their division. They might get the 9-8 division winning Super Bowl for them. The Mike Tomlin 9-8 Super Bowl might be coming their way, but it might also come with the division title. What I won't take though, what I will not take is Steeler fans complaining about this. Hey, nobody told you to never rebuild. I didn't tell you that. You guys insist on doing that. You guys insist on only having 3 head coaches ever. Okay? I didn't tell you to do that. All right? Just know that right now, Dan Campbell has more or either more wins or as many wins as the head coach in the last 4 years than the Lions had in the 21st century up to that point. Literally. I saw the stat. Maybe I can find it. Let me look it up. Dan Campbell. More wins in 4 years than Lions had in 12 or something like that. Yeah, here we are. Right here. Dan Campbell had as many wins in his first 4 years, 39, as the Lions did from 2001 to 2010. Huh? I don't want to hear any complaints from Steeler fans. Do you understand? You had a decade of football that the Lions won as many games as they've won in 4. And that includes a losing season, his first year here. And then even if you go beyond 2010, let's see. They got 10, 14, what is that? 21, 32. Hold on, I'm doing the math. 32, 37, 46. Sorry, I'm just really bad at math. 46, 55, 61, 64. I understand this is so embarrassing. 69. So they had 69 wins since 2010. So Dan Campbell is 30 wins away from matching the next decade. But still, I'm just saying. That's crazy. So yeah, no complaining, Steeler fans. No complaining. You're here for life. Waiting for Matthew Stafford to become a Steeler. Hey man, Matthew Stafford is at least having a good year. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a believer, at least not right now. I know a lot of people are really high on that Rams team, and I think they're good. I just don't. I don't know. I feel like things could fall apart pretty quickly there. But maybe I'm wrong. No, it's not gonna happen. The way Stafford's going, unless the Rams trade him this offseason, he's probably gonna retire. Yeah, he should retire when LA's done with him. It's actually kind of crazy. He's 3 years away from a 20-year season in the NFL. Roughly. Obviously, I think he started in, what was it, 09? But like, roughly 20 years. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But good for him. And hopefully that means we don't have to see him in those god-awful commercials where he's in bed with his wife. Psycho wife. We need to boo her again. Boo her and her kids. That's a joke. That's a joke, Kelly. What, he was booing you or your kids? Seriously. Don't you have to go cheat on your husband in college again? Well, I guess he wasn't your husband back then, but whatever. Meanwhile, speaking of bad marital situations, Baltimore. Quite the transition. Baltimore is in complete and utter collapse right now. They are, as they say in the books, spiraling. I was trying to find a phrase there. They are spiraling out of control. They get blown out to the Chiefs by 27 points, 37-20 the final score. Lamar Jackson has an awful game, a touchdown and a pick, but 147 yards. Derrick Henry has another awful game. He runs for just 42 yards, lowest on the team, lower than his quarterback, which makes me feel stupid for having drafted him so high in fantasy. So shout out Derrick Henry for deciding he no longer wants to play football anymore. Then Then Lamar Jackson goes down with a potential injury, and Cooper Rush comes in the fourth quarter. Now, I don't think that was an injury like, oh my gosh, I'm seriously not going to be able to play. I think it's we're losing. I don't want to get. Suddenly, I got pneumonia. Suddenly, my back is hurting me. So take me out of this game. We're not winning. We need to completely reset. And maybe that's the case. But their defense, man, another couple injuries on their defense. It's getting to the point where, short of them making a move here to maybe trade for a player on defense or pick somebody up that just goes off, it's really bad. Like, it's really, really bad. You can't, you're not going to be able to win a lot of games with that many guys on your defense injured. Believe me, I know. And it's funny because the Lions obviously won 15 games last year with so many injuries on their defense. But at this point, they're already that ship has already sailed, right? They've lost 3 games already, so they can't win 15. The one thing that Baltimore is going to need is a bye week. But there's one problem. Their bye week, I don't think, is until, let's see, 1 week. Actually, okay, maybe they have an earlier bye week. Their bye week is middle October, I believe. I can't really. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's their bye week. Okay, whatever. Either way, whenever their bye week is, they're going to need it. And things are just getting so out of hand. And as far as the Chiefs go, okay, fine. You finally decided to show up for a regular season win. Ooh, I don't care. You're still bad. That defense is terrible for Baltimore. And it becomes especially more terrible when there's more injuries added on, and Lamar Jackson goes down in the fourth quarter. It's terrible. They're terrible. Fine. You needed to win, Kansas City. You did. I'm not going to fault you for that. But still don't really have a high opinion of Kansas City this year. Xavier Worthy, he comes back from injury. He certainly gets a boost to that offense. Is Rashee Rice going to do the same? Maybe he will. Maybe the Chiefs' offense will be much better later in the year than how it started. But as it stands, I still don't really trust him. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. I'm frequently wrong, but I'm never in doubt. So, that's how it is. Let's see. There was played 20-year season. Remember? Oh yeah, that's right. He didn't play in 2019. That's true. I mean, but he didn't. Injuries are its own thing. There's plenty of guys who you can say, yeah, they didn't play for a year, so not really a full 20 years exactly. And like Tom Brady, didn't he have a year where he was out for the full season? Pretty sure he had a year like that. Wasn't that the Matt Castle year, something like that? Maybe it was not that long. I don't know. For some reason, I have a memory of him missing a significant amount of time. And then finally, you thought I wasn't going to talk about it, did you? You thought I was going to miss it. No, I wouldn't miss this for the world. The Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday Night Football. Micah Parsons' revenge game. Here we go. Jerry Jones is going to get exposed. Or Green Bay could get exposed for making an oopsie and overpaying potentially for Micah Parsons. But in reality, everybody loses. In reality, we get the funniest ending, a tie. Both of these teams give up 40 points to each other, and both of them fail to win the game. And you know what's even crazier is that the only reason the Green Bay Packers tied this game is because Jordan Love's throw happened to hit the ground right at 1 second. Right at the perfect amount of time. If he would have held onto that ball for literally 1 more second, we're not talking about a tie game. We're talking about a losing game. And now, since starting 2-0, both at home, mind you, the Green Bay Packers have gone 0-1-1. Both against teams they should be body bagging if they are allegedly Super Bowl contenders. And I will just say this. And Micah Parsons is a very good player. Don't get it twisted. You're allowed to have a bad game in this league. But if your revenge game is, let me see if I can find it. Where's Micah? There it is. If your revenge game is 3 total tackles and 1 sack and 3 QB hits, is that really a revenge game? I mean, like that is not a great game. All right, let's just call it like it is. You had 1 good play in overtime where you saved the game from real, success, like where you forced the field goal for Dallas. But that was not a good game. It was not. It just straight up wasn't. And so Jerry Jones gets to say, well, we couldn't do it with Micah. Micah's not as good as we need him to be. And then but Dak Prescott, he the best quarterback we could ever have. And everybody else is dumb and stupid. And I want potato salad for dinner and drugs. I don't know. That's my impersonation of a man without a brain. And Jordan Love, he I guess played a good game as far as the stats go. But again, boneheaded decision at the end of the game. Spike the ball, play for the tie. What are you doing trying to be a hero and throw the ball with 2 seconds? spike the ball. And I don't remember what the down was, but you can at least talk about it. Just like it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad ending, and it's been a bad couple of weeks for Green Bay. They're off this week. They got their bye week, so maybe you say, okay, this is where you can get right. Fine. But you gave up 40 points to Dallas. Okay? You can't do that. You can't do that. No. Not if you're a Super Bowl contender. And believe me, when the Lions play Dallas later in the year, and obviously the team will probably be very different one way or the other. I'm sure there will be trade deadline moves, or injuries or what have you. Lions are not going to play a game like this against Dallas because they don't play games like this. Like, even when you go back to last year, it was like, obviously once the injury started to mount, then they were playing these high-scoring games. But even then, like, you had a game against Minnesota. They kept it close, and then they ripped their throats out. The Bills game, they got behind, and they were playing from behind, and the defense couldn't keep up. It was what there was not much you could do there. But Lions don't play games like this. They don't play down to their competition for the most part. Green Bay, last couple of weeks, they've done just that. And again, it's early. We're at the quarter mark of the season, which is crazy to think about. 4 weeks in, roughly the quarter mark. Technically, there's 17 games, 18 total weeks. Not exactly the quarter mark, but you get what I mean. So, it was probably the best possible ending you could get. It's a tie. So it's hilarious. It's just hysterical. Just hysterical. I love it. My favorite of the possible things. So, and yeah, he did say this. I don't. Okay, like, I want to try to be charitable here, because the term glory hole in our decadent and debauched society means something very different than it once did. I believe it used to refer to when you would dig for oil and it would shoot out, and that was a glory hole. But unfortunately, doesn't mean that anymore. So when he says it, you just kind of nod your head and say, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good, Jerry. We're going to put you in a home now. Panthers game in 23 was the last time you could say oh, you mean 22? Not 23. That was Christmas Eve. The Lions ruined Christmas. I remember that game. Yeah. This is the last time I think they played down to competition. Like, that was a game that they definitely should have won, but that was dumb. I mean, but it ended up, working out in a way, because then we got to play Green Bay Sunday night, and we got to ruin their year, and that was great. That's truly a wondrous thing. All right. Speaking of, I wasn't going to mention college football. I do want to do a check-in here of the schedule this week, just in case there was anything to note. But I also wanted to talk about, let's see, I don't know if they're playing this week. They might not be playing this week. Here they are. Colorado. They're now 2-3. They lose to BYU again. They'll be playing at TCU this Saturday. Now, we do recall the first win of the Buffs' illustrious time with Deion Sanders was a win against TCU at home. So, sure it'll be a good game. But Yeah, it is what it is. Coach Prime has wins against Wyoming and Delaware at home. Those are his wins. He's lost to Georgia Tech, Houston, and BYU. Oh, and also the school got fined for saying F the Mormons. So that's... See, here's the thing, though. Okay, I get, you fine the school, but, what about the people who are chanting it? There's video. You can probably identify some of these students. Why are they, maybe they aren't going off scot-free, but, it just seems kind of whatever, you punish the university, so what? If I'm a student, who cares? I don't care about the university having to pay. I'm paying more than that, right? That's the thought process. So I don't really get. If there's going to be punishment for chanting something, shouldn't it be on the people who are chanting, not the institution in which the chanting took place? I don't know. Just my thoughts. That's right. The Red Wings, they're playing a preseason game right now, and I believe their first game is not this Friday, but the following, Friday or maybe Thursday. If I believe it's could be the Thursday. 'Cause I want to say the 9th. Yeah, okay, this is exactly my point. I think you could probably find, you could get videos surely of these people, but why find the university? Sure, you could find, I don't really care. Find the university and punish the actual people who did this, who said this. Because I mean, I'll just say this, and maybe I'm going to be the old fuddy-duddy. It's unbecoming of an adult to be cursing in public, especially at a sporting event when people are all around you. I'm not saying that I'm some, pristine, never makes a mistake in public, never does anything stupid. I understand, okay? But to be constantly cursing all the time in public is unbecoming, certainly of an adult. You should be able to have a little bit more self-control, right? So if you're going to do that, if you're going to curse, you just can't stop yourself from doing it, fine. But perhaps it would be unwise to aim your curses at an entire religious group, at an institution that is specifically for said religious group. It just doesn't look great, and that's me being nice. I could say far worse things, and yeah, it is. It's not great, not great. So anyway, briefly wanted to mention as well, Michigan State playing Nebraska on the road this week. Like I said, I think it is a winnable game for Michigan State, but looking at it, Michigan State's got a 14% win probability on the ESPN matchup predictor. So obviously that is not necessarily a factual thing, but Michigan State's going to be going into this game as underdogs. But right now, spread is minus 11.5 for Nebraska. That's not great. That's double digit favors for Nebraska. If your defense can get maybe 2 stops, 1 or 2 stops, maybe you could maybe you got something. But outside of that, yeah, it's going to be a high scoring and probably depressing game. Outside of that, I'll be honest with you guys, I did not watch any college football this weekend. The reason is I was at a wedding, and then after the wedding, I was hanging out with people, and I caught but a sliver of the Ole Miss LSU game, and that was about it. So I got nothing to say. Michigan State and Michigan didn't play, so I got nothing to say. As far as this week goes, let's see. The big noon game is Wisconsin at Michigan. That's going to be just the worst football ever. Mostly because Wisconsin is so bad. But Michigan is at least pretty good so far. Let's see. What other games do we got? Oh, and by the way, what's his name? James Franklin is a fraud. Thank you. See you later. You got Vandy at Alabama. 3:30 on ABC. That could be a good game. I'll probably be keeping an eye out for that game. Let's see, what else do we got here? I guess that's pretty much it. I guess Miami at Florida State. That also could be a good game. So those are the two good games. Vandy, Alabama, and Miami, Florida State. That's pretty much it. Mormon Holy Land, Utah. Is that I don't know that much about Mormonism. I know Utah is where a bunch of Mormons are. I don't know if it's a holy land. But I also don't really know what I don't know what that I don't know. Whatever. We're just gonna leave it at that. Colorado probably has a lot of Mormons because of that. Why do you think Matt and Trey did a lot of things? Right. The Mormons are highly populated in that area of the country. Colorado, Utah, Idaho. That area of the country, there's a lot of Mormons. So it's a bad luck. Bad luck for the university. I saw Central Michigan beat Eastern Michigan and Ole Miss LSU because the Ole Miss quarterback is a transfer from Ferris State. Go Dogs. Go Dogs. How does anybody find these quarterbacks? Ferris State? The engineering school? How did, who's out there you know what, there's this kid slinging it over at Grand Valley. There's some kids slinging the ball at Methodist. Y'all don't know. Y'all don't know about the kid out in Albion running circles over guys. Some of these scouts, you got to give them credit. They managed to find some of these guys at these smaller schools playing nobodies, not on TV. Give them credit. You got to give them credit. All right. So we don't have Seth's picks in just yet, but we will go ahead and move forward with just doing my picks, and he will put his picks in later, and that's okay because he's beating me mercilessly. So it is, of course, that time of the show. We're going to do the picks. Hit the music. Run it. All right. So we finally have some bye weeks this week, so slightly less games to pick from this week, but that's all right. We started off on Thursday Night Football, the 49ers taking on the Rams in Los Angeles. I am going to go with the Rams here. Look, I don't believe in the 49ers. I don't. I know they've won games. I know they right now, I think they're tied for first or in first. I just don't believe. I think they're a beat-up team. I think they're a shell of themselves. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer. Give me the Rams. Vikings at the Browns in what people are calling football terrorism. I'm going to go with the Vikings here. The Browns offensively have literally nothing going for them. They are so bad. You know it is bad when, Joe Flacco currently is their best option. That is very, very bad. So, yeah, give me the Vikings. They'll be able to potentially get some points on the board. But, yeah, that's if they can get 10 points on the board, it's enough against the Browns. Texans at the Ravens. Give me the Ravens. The Texans, they had a great win. Great, quote-unquote, win against division rival Tennessee over the weekend. They blew them out. Their offense finally was able to do something, but that was against Tennessee. And now they'll also be going up against a bad defense in Baltimore because the Baltimore just beat the heck up. But Baltimore has got to be thinking, okay, it's a team that has a bad offense. Maybe our defense can step it up against a bad offense, get right, feel good, build some confidence. And that's why I think the Ravens are going to win. They're going to be back at home. You got to end the spiraling right here, right now. So give me the Ravens to get the win. And what we are seeing as what we can call only football terrorism on the rise. Dolphins at the Raiders. Dolphins at the Panthers. Excuse me. That would be even worse potentially. So the Dolphins are going to be without Tyreek Hill. He's out for the season. Torn ACL. Done for the year. His leg was on backwards. That's never good. I don't know who to pick for this game, so I'm just going to go with the Dolphins because the Panthers are terrible. And I will not pick them until proven otherwise. Basically, I got nothing more. Give me the Dolphins. Raiders at the Colts. This feels like a bounce back game for the Colts. Raiders are so bad. To lose that game that way a couple of days ago on Sunday against the Bears, blocked field goal, that That's bad. Geno Smith is so terrible now. And I saw this coming a mile away. I said last year that the Geno Smith thing is done. He had a good little run there in Seattle, but he's cooked. He's done. He's finished. And when the Raiders went out and got him, I was like, okay, well, he might be an upgrade from what you had, which was nobody, but he's not going to be good for you. So, yeah, give me the Colts. Oh, my goodness. This is just an onslaught of football terrorism. Giants at the Saints. Oh, gosh. I'm just going to pick the Giants because I said that the Saints are going to win a game this year, and at this point, I'm kind of rooting for it. Yeah, give me the Giants. Jackson Dart got the win last week on his start. He was not remarkable, but against the Saints, he could probably prove to be maybe better. So maybe they're building something in New York, and Brian Daboll is coaching for his job, and he needs Jackson Dart to be good in order for that to work. So give me the G-Men. Cowboys at the Jets. Jets, a very unfortunate loss on Monday night against the Dolphins. Just bad overall. It reminds me a little bit, and it makes sense. It's Aaron Glenn, former DC under Dan Campbell. It reminds me of that first year with Dan Campbell with the Lions. I feel like they're not going to be able to get a lot of wins here, so give me the boys. I think they're going to be able to go on the road here and get the win fairly easily. Yeah, doesn't look good. Does not look good. Broncos at the Eagles. This is an easy Eagles. Not because the Eagles are very good, but because the Broncos, I do not believe in. I'm sorry, I don't. I think their defense is good. I do not believe in their offense. Bo Nix is way too inconsistent at this point in his career. And I've already said, Sean Payton is basically Mike Ditka on the New Orleans Saints, which is funny because it's New Orleans Saints. And there's obviously the Sean Payton thing. Anyway, Eagles are going to win this game. It's probably going to be ugly. It's going to be the most boring football you'll have the displeasure of watching because it's probably just going to be two offenses incapable of doing anything fun. So, yeah, give me the Eagles at home. Take it. Titans at the Cardinals. Oh, my gosh. Texting Seth about this earlier today. I may never forgive the Cardinals for that Thursday night game. I really believe, all right? I really thought at home they can come on, Kyler. You can do it, little guy. And he needs about 6 inches to be able to be good in this league. Kyler Murray is not good. I've accepted it. He's just not good. He's missing his guys, Marvin Harrison. Maybe Marvin Harrison is not good. I don't know. But it's just a bad situation. However, the Titans may be worse. Give me the Birds. If they lose this game, if they give the Titans their first win, I'm never picking the Cardinals again. Mark my words. You can pin it you can put it in the comments. Make sure that I don't forget. If they lose this game to the Titans, I will never pick the Cardinals. Ever. At least for the rest of the year. Maybe next year. Buccaneers at the Seahawks. Give me the Buccaneers pretty easily in this one. Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks, I just don't. I think their defense is good. Their offense, I'm not a huge believer in it. I don't think Sam Darnold is a threatening quarterback. Baker Mayfield, I think, is a much safer option here. They played, not great against Philadelphia, but they managed to get themselves back into the game until the very end there. So give me the Buccaneers. I think they're going to be able to pull this one out. Lions at the Bungles in Cincinnati. Yeah, give me the Lions. Jake Browning is very, 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 very bad. Yeah, Lions are gonna roll. This offense is terrible. The defense is even more terrible. It's not going to be a good game, and I feel bad for Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady because this is America's game of the week, I think. So have fun, fellas. That's unfortunate. Give me the Lions. Commanders at the Chargers. Give me the Chargers. I think it's a bounce back week. Who knows when Jaden Daniels is going to be back? It's been Marcus Mariota at quarterback for Washington for the last couple of weeks. Talk about a sophomore slump, dealing with injuries. Unfortunate because I think a lot of people were pretty high on the Commanders, myself included. I thought they were going to be a division contender, and they still well could be. But they're going to have to be climbing ahead of Philadelphia to be able to do it. So give me the Chargers. I think they'll bounce back. Injuries on the offensive line are unfortunate, but I think they can get this bounce back. They had a tough game last week. They can definitely bounce back. Patriots at the Bills on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, I'm not picking the Patriots. Drake May is good, but he's fine. He could be a good quarterback someday. But that team is terrible. They're very, very bad. I'm not going to do the very bit. I already did that earlier. Yeah, the Bills are just way better. There's not much to say. Josh Allen has basically become Tom Brady to Patriots fans. Or wait, hold on. Josh Allen has taken the role that Tom Brady held to Bills fans. I don't know. He hurts the Patriots. That's the point I'm trying to make. Finally, Monday Night Football, Chiefs at the Jaguars. This is actually an interesting matchup for me because the Jags, to their credit, are an interesting team. They got a win last week against the 49ers. It wasn't pretty, but it was a win nonetheless. I did pick them to win that game. It's going to be on the road for Kansas City, but I will take the Chiefs. I made the mistake of not picking the Chiefs last week. I think that Mahomes is going to be able to will them to a victory. As much as I think the Jags might be a sneaky, maybe a 7 or a 6 seed in the wild card, I don't know that Trevor Lawrence is that guy, and I don't know that they're going to need a whole lot more of an infrastructural change and probably a much more bigger roster change to really become a big contender in the league. So give me the Chiefs. All right, rounding it out. 49ers, Rams, going with the Rams. Vikings, Browns, I'm going with the Vikings. Texans, Ravens, I'm going with the Ravens. Dolphins, Panthers, I'm going with the Dolphins. Raiders, Colts, I'm going with the Colts. Giants, Saints, I'm taking the Giants. Cowboys, Jets, I'm taking them boys. Broncos, Eagles, I'm taking the Eagles. Titans, Cardinals, I'm taking the Cardinals. Buccaneers, Seahawks, I'm taking the Buccaneers. Lions, Bengals, I'm taking the Lions. Commanders, Chargers, I'm taking the Chargers. Patriots, Bills, I am taking the Bills. And on Monday Night Football, Chiefs, Jaguars, I am taking the Chiefs. And those are your Week 5 NFL picks. I feel like that pick section went very long. I was talking a lot. I was. I admit it. Oh, boy. Now the Yankees are down 3-1. Who is that pitcher? He's got like a bleached mustache. Guy looks like a serial killer or something. He looks like freaky. Ugh. Don't bleach your mustache. That looks weird. I don't know. Odd behavior. Strange behavior. Wouldn't do it. All right. Well, that's it then. That's it for the show. So, a little bit of show notes. Look ahead. Saturday, we will be back with Michigan State football. I haven't been able to say that in a while because you had the home game that I wasn't doing. Then you had the 11 o'clock game that I was not doing. So, we're going to be back. 4 o'clock is kickoff, so we'll be live at around 3:50 or so. Hopefully, well, I'm not totally sure. The Tigers, they're going to play tomorrow, and then I believe they play Thursday at 1 o'clock. So I won't be able to do any of those games just because while I'm working. I'd like to be able to try to do some of these ALDS games, assuming they make it. But, we'll see, obviously, depending on how that series goes. I'd be much more inclined to want to do the games than not do the games. But obviously, it's unfortunate because it's really dependent on the time and everything. So we'll see what happens. So it'll be Thursday if they lose. I guess depending on the time of that game. So, well, hold on. Yeah, Thursday if they lose. Wait, hold on. If they get to Thursday and they lose the series, right? Because that means that they lost tomorrow, right? I don't know. Any occasion, things. We'll be live on Saturday for the Michigan State game, and we will be live on Sunday for the Lions game. Those are for sure. Maybe, depending on some of the scheduling with some of the Tiger games, we'll try to be live for some of those, but no promises. So, with that being said, if you haven't already, hit the like and the subscribe button. We'll be back once again next week for the regular show and the live reactions this weekend. So, have a good rest of your night, everybody, and I will talk to you all later. See ya. See you later. See